Hello and welcome to the day.
Thank you for spending your time with us.
I'm Jake.
I'm Joel. Welcome back to another episode of Jake and Joel Are Magic. We are continuing our Pioneer series with Ixalan. Jake, we are so deep into the back nine now.
We're doing it. We are getting through. We are at Ixalan, and Ixalan is one of those sets that is in recent memory.
Absolutely right. Like Joaquin Phoenix in Joker, we are here to do a lot with little to no script. Before we get going, if you wouldn't mind hitting like, hitting subscribe, it really helps us out.
Yes, but only if you're logged in. If you are hanging out and you are just watching videos, then just go down the rabbit hole. Go ahead and check them out. Don't feel like doing anything, that's fine too.
Absolutely. Don't give that website your email if you don't want to. The caveat with this series, as we've said with every single video in this series, is that we are still trying to aim for cards that are less than $5, but we think could have play, whether it's as a 2 of in a sideboard or a 1 of in a main deck.
That's right. We're not just going to spew random trash cards to you just because they're cheap. These are cards that we are aiming for that are relevant or that have made an impact in their various formats.
That's absolutely right. Let's start with a card that was banned at one time, because why not use that as a fantastic rule of thumb to judge a card's value? Rampaging Ferocidon.
Yeah, this card is excellent. I love Menace and the fact that players can't gain life. If a big life gain strategy were to take off, this is the kind of card that it's going to be great in a sideboard. Yep. It's got a nice 3/3 body, so it packs a punch. It's nice and beefy, but you know it's a great card. It's a really good red card.
That's right. It's good against token strategies because it's dealing a damage every time a creature comes into the battlefield. It's a
Punisher card. It's a Punisher card. It's a really cool Punisher card, and I love
life gain, which is huge for a red deck. Plus the Menace 3/3 for 3. Can't really complain about that, can you?
No, can't complain about that. And here's a nice $1.50.
Yeah, no kidding. And this was a staple in the mono white deck that took down many a pro tournament. Legion's Landing gives you a 1/1 lifelinker out of the gate, and then eventually transforms into a land that is creating more tokens.
Yeah, this card is excellent. Anything that's an enchantment is nice and sticky. We've already had a legendary enchantment get banned in Pioneer, Oath of Nissa. This card flips and just becomes absolute value. It's really good for vampires, and I think a lot of players are staying away from tribes right now.
Yeah.
But I think that tribal is going to be something that takes off. Again, this format is so new, and most of the decks are just like, oh, what are the best cards right now? Let's just go to those cards, and let's not really think outside the box. And the format really does need time to breathe.
Yep, vampires, it'll be good in tribal. It's good in White Weenie, which is where it thrived when it was in Standard.
Oh, yeah.
This card... It never really made a huge impact in Standard. You would see it pop up as a 2 of occasionally. But in a blue-black control, a creature that enters the battlefield steals a card, and you get to cast it, so it remains stolen forever. That's pretty dope.
Dude, Hostage Taker was one of those cards that came out, it was super low, and then it won, like, in a Grixis control deck. It spiked to, like, 15 a card. People started playing it in Sultai Energy. Then that deck got answered, and so Hostage Taker like kind of bottomed out, and it's like a $2 card, but it's really impactful. And like you said, in control, this is the kind of card that, you know, you bring out of the sideboard, and hell, you might even run it in the main board and side it out if you don't need it. But it's honestly, it's really, really good.
Yep.
There's a lot of power on it.
Stealing your opponent's artifacts and creatures is never going to be a bad thing.
People were stealing Scarab God with it. That's why it really took off, is because it was one of those cards that could take Scarab God and then play Scarab God. And so, yeah, it's something to think about.
Yeah, absolutely. Something else to think about is a 4/4 Vigi lifelink, tap it, pay 7 life, destroy a non-land permanent that could get cheated onto the battlefield on turn 3. I don't know how often or how much.
You say that a lot.
A vampire that can get snuck onto the battlefield, in my mind, it might be playable.
Dude, the fact that it has lifelink is the reason why it's so good. The ability is excellent, but it does cost a lot of life. But the fact that you can swing with it and then EOT, pay 7 life, destroy a non-land permanent. Like, non-land permanent is a very, very, very versatile ability. And yes, like you said, Sorin Imperious Bloodlord could get this on the battlefield, you know, if you were ramping as early as turn 2.
Sure.
So it's an excellent card. I think that, you know, it being mythic, it's one of those cards that if it were to take off, it would like spike quickly because people would buy into it, and because it's a mythic, there are fewer of them.
Right.
But it's a really good card, and it's sitting at like $1.79 or like $2 or something like
yeah,
that.
So. Absolutely. It's one of those where the main thing that's going to hold it back is the fact that it is a legendary card. Here's another legendary vampire on this list. You'll start to see a
35 cents, dude.
Yeah, I mean,
35 cents.
And you'll see more and more tribal stuff as we get deeper into the more recent sets. But Mavrin, Thane, Marvin is going to be creating 1/1 tokens whenever you're attacking with non-token vampires.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people are going to be turned off by this because, you know, we have a lot of cards like Sweltering Suns and Anger of the Gods and just easy ways,
Definitely,
you know,
clarity.
Ritual of Soot. There's a lot of different ways to wipe tokens and low butts. And so that may be the kind of thing that holds us back. But again, if vampires were to take off like a white-black vampire deck, I don't know how this wouldn't be included.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Treasure Map up after that. This card is going to... I mean, I loved this card when it was in Standard. Being able to scry, being able to end up being a draw engine in a deck that might need something like that. This was one of my favorite cards in Standard, even though the power level by itself is not super high.
Yeah, I think it's one of those kind of cards. I see it playing alongside Revel in Riches, which is, you know, if you have 10 or more treasure, you win the game.
Yeah.
But, you know, in like the right kind of deck, a control deck, also I think mono red, it would like this card as well because it gives you late game card draw.
Yeah.
I think the card is really, really good, and I'm interested to see where it goes. I like it for EDH as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's a nice, strong card at a very low price point, and maybe an artifact deck to take off that wanted it.
Right, that's what I was going to say. If an artifact deck does emerge, this is the kind of card that would be a 1 or 2 of it guaranteed, because it's going to have versatility and then card draw eventually. After that, Unclaimed Territory. Now, in a format where land is at just an absolute premium, multicolor land is at an absolute premium. This is going to play again in a tribal deck, and you know what? At this point, sue us if you're tired of hearing about how we think tribal decks might pop off. But the first tribal deck that does, Unclaimed Territory is going in there automatically.
Yeah, and you know the card I think is already like $1.50 or something like that.
As an uncommon.
And I'm sure that has something to do with EDH, because Tribal most certainly is the thing in EDH.
Yep.
And so Unclaimed Territory slots into that deck perfectly. But also, yes, in this format, I would say the foils, if a Tribal thing were to take off, a tribal meta, this card would probably skyrocket in price, the foil would.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. After that, we've got our closest we're going to get to Wrath of God, but only for attackers, Serrle the Wreckage, everybody's favorite white exile trick when it was in Standard.
Yeah, and it's one of those cards that I think a lot of people are going to be expecting. So if you were like maybe like blue-white mill, this is really good because it thins out their deck. But also, like you said, you know, the reason it's close to Wrath of God is because it's the exact same casting cost. If you're looking for a Wrath type effect, you're probably going to want to go with something like Time Wipe. But again, this is one of those cards. It's a very specific. It's not sorcery speed like all of the normal Wrath effects are. Yeah. So in the right shell, I think this card is relevant. And yes, like you said, the card when it was in Standard was absolutely a house. It's a really good exile effect.
Oh yeah, I remember for many a month going, do you think they're gonna settle me here? That happened.
Yeah, and it's also notable. Often. It's notable to say about Serrle the Wreckage as well that, you know, if they're playing a graveyard strategy and normal Wrath effects aren't going to work, you know, this is the kind of effect that you're going to want, because you're going to exile all of that extra value that otherwise would just go to the yard. Yeah,
you're absolutely right, and that takes us back around to the beginning of it and to the end of our Ixalan Sleepers list. We are cranking it out. We are trying to get to the end. We appreciate you watching. Like we said, if you wouldn't mind hitting like, hitting subscribe, really helps us out. If you want to support us further, we've got a Patreon. The link is down in the description below. And don't forget, we are streaming twice a week on Tuesdays and Thursdays over on twitch.tv/Jake and Joel are Magic. I'm tapped out. Jake, you got anything else?
If there's anything that you think we missed, let us know in the comments.
That's absolutely right. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.